Okay, very good afternoon to all, and this is Sonia Singh in front of you, and very warm welcome everyone on our channel Exam for IAS English Medium. I hope everyone my voice is completely audible and everything visible now. एक बार आप मुझे बता सकते हैं that everything is visible or not? See, you can definitely see the quote on the behind me on the screen specifically, and where I would just like to mention, and I would like to start the session with the quote of Mr. Kalam. And as per the quotation of Mr. Kalam, he always tried to motivate the students, and we know very well that the contribution of a Kalam specifically for the youth, for the innovation, for the technology is such a, we can say, completely changed the India's presence drastically, right? So as per the quotation of Kalam, Kalam is always in the favor of a hard work, and as he said, if you want to shine like a sun, first you have to burn like a sun, right? So there is a very I feel that this is a very important quotation, everyone, that hard work is really matters, that hard work is really matters in your life. And if you're really decided to achieve anything in your life, it will become anything, might be it is the aim of for your UPSC, maybe it is the aim to become a good teacher, or maybe to become a good businessman. But any type of a stream you are choosing in your life, definitely it needs a good hard work. It looking for your dedication, it looks for your patience, your smart work, and your knowledge. And as per the quotation of Kalam, definitely we can get the idea that if you really have a good command on your knowledge, on your subject, definitely you can achieve everything, and obstacles never be the part of your in your life and your career. So all the best everyone, specifically for our UPSC aspirants, and those are appearing in mains exam in September. And just going to start the session, everyone, before going to start the session, I would like to mention the benefits of the Exampur app, everyone. It is a very important for the aspirants. I think guidance somewhere is playing a very crucial and very important role in your life. And the Exampur app is specifically giving a good guidance. So what you have to be done, you just go on Play Store, you just type Exampur Sarkari Naukri Preparation, everyone. And definitely this app, this preparation Sarkari Naukri app, definitely will help you not only to understand that what is the right way to choose anything, but definitely it will help you to definitely it will help you, everyone, in your career as well. You can definitely download the PDFs as well. You can talk to our teachers, you can ask your doubts, you can ask anything specifically related with your career point of view. You can join the live session as well, you can join our YouTube session as well. So you can see you have a numbers of the benefits while downloading the app, everyone. And this app is completely not only enhancing your knowledge, but for just because what is happening in these days actually, that we are spending lots of money in the biggest coaching centers for the quality knowledge. But Exampur Sarkari Naukri app preparation definitely provide you everything free of cost. And while downloading this app, you are not going to pay anything else, right? This is enough participation of the students, and this is divided in step 1. First of all, you have to go on the Play Store, just type Exampur Sarkari Naukri app. Step 3, just click the button install. Later on, you can see the installation. You will register with your name, with your phone number, with your Google email ID as well. And later on, you can register yourself, your name, your email, your password, the notification, and you have to choose, everyone, the option we have getting the home. So on the home app, definitely you can download, you can search about your jobs, your preparations, your guidelines, your PDFs, your doubt session, your live Zoom meetings as well. So you can definitely see you got number of the benefits while downloading the app, everyone. Fine. Now let's move ahead. So in today's answer writing, everyone, I would just like to introduce the new topic, which is French Revolution. French Revolution, which has happened actually 1789 in the European countries. I feel French Revolution is a somehow very specific, put at very specific impact in the not only in the world history but as well as on the Indian history. And French Revolution definitely just playing a very vital role to change India's history drastically. And in this session, we are just going to discuss about the French Revolution, why the French Revolution is happened actually, what is the meaning of the revolution, and why the specifically France suddenly aware about the about specifically for their own rights and their for their duties as well. You can see the map of France on the screen, everyone. This map is completely helpful, everyone, for your further knowledge, for enhancing your knowledge. And you can see the Versailles, the location of the Paris as well, where it will help you people to know the exact the relevance of the Paris. And Paris is somehow playing a very vital role in the French Revolution. And in this revolution, we will try to discuss each and every aspects of the impact as well, the social aspect, the cultural aspect, the economic, the political, the administrative. And we are just going to discuss about why the revolution is actually happened in 1789, and what about the reason behind it, what are the factors behind it, why it is actually happened, and how the states, we can say, the first state, the second state, and the third state playing the role in French Revolution, and why the third state is completely not accepted the hierarchy and the, we can say, the anarchy of the French government, and why they are completely rejected their acceptance of the orders, right? So we are just going to discuss French Revolution in very elaborated sense, everyone. You can see the question on the screen. You can see the question. First of all, we are just discuss about the French Revolution about 5th of May 1789. 5th of May 1789, and it just overcome in 1799. Overcome doesn't mean that the revolution is completely gonna be over now. This revolution not only completely impacted the whole European countries, the revolution is not only awareing the common people, we can say the third state of the France, but definitely this revolution just creating the platform for the further revolution. That definitely I can give the good example, 1914, the first war of independence. We have then 1917, the Russian Revolution as well, and we have later on 1945, when we have a very good example of First World War. And in the first and second World War and the Russian Revolution in 1917, somehow France always playing a very vital role in three of the segments, either the French Revolution as well itself, and later on the First War of Independence, the Second War of Independence, and the Russian Revolution 1917. And this is somehow creating the awareness to the people who are just suffering with the equal status in the society, the jobs with the jobs in the society, when the people completely were suffering with the unemployment problems, and they are completely disagree with the existing government in the France in 1789. And numbers of the time that I told you that any of the revolution never ever happened suddenly. Definitely, if I am discuss about the revolution of the American Revolution, somehow completely impacted and creating the platform for 1789 French Revolution. And this is somehow a gradual process. Whenever we discuss the word like revolution and the movement, definitely the word the revolution, when we completely bifurcated the word the revolution, it means the evaluation that we are doing in the society, the evaluation that we are existing in the society, that we are not completely satisfied. So how we are just going to satisfy? When we are completely change the strata, the format, that in the yesterday session I already discussed about the role of the democracy, that how the democracy and the independence playing the two sides of one coin, and definitely they are completely playing role in not only in the Indian government, because India is such a very largest democracy of the world, but definitely the word like democracy and the independence somehow completely impacted the European countries as well. Fine. So on the same way, that definitely we cannot ignore the impact, and we cannot ignore the impact of the American Revolution on the French Revolution, because the British colony, the attitude of the British colony, and definitely we all are aware about the suppression of the British colony that they completely happened in India actually. And in India in 1789 and the time phase of 1917, the time of the national movement, that we are not going to accept it, right? So what is the reason behind it? Because the Indian people, they were completely not accepted, they were completely suppressed with the policy makings, and we can say the ideology of the British Empire. So definitely the French Revolution somehow playing a very great and very vital role in it, right? So in this session we are just going to discuss about that how the revolution is actually emerged in the European countries, and the French Revolution, how the French Revolution is completely happened. Definitely we are just going to discuss about the factors, the reasons behind it of the French Revolution. And definitely we are just going to discuss here about the American Revolution, the impact of American Revolution, not only the higher classes but the common classes, the third state that we are considering in the French Revolution, and why the French Revolution is not going to succeed it somewhere, right? And French Revolution and any of the revolution, if you are discussing specifically for the world history, if I am discuss about 1917, the Russian Revolution, if I am discuss about the French Revolution 1789, that there is a no definitely we can say the revolution is not completely helpful or not completely uplifted the people. So what is the reason behind it, that we are going to discuss in the lecture, everyone. So let's begin the session. You can see the question, everyone, on the screen, and the question is completely asked about the what were the reasons for the French Revolution. That I'm always discuss with you people, that it is a very mandatory and it is a very important to understand that whenever you discuss about the French, whenever you discuss about the answer writing, that it is a very important to choose the approach of the question, that what are you exactly understand with the question, that how you are creating your understand with the question, and how the question is completely helpful to you people to creating a good sketch while doing the answer writing. Fine. So in this question, definitely we are just going to discuss not only about the reasons, the factors, the impact, but definitely we are just going to discuss about the approach of the question. In this question we are definitely choose the keywords as well, and in this question definitely we are just examining the question. The question is specifically asked on the examination, or the question is asked on the critical analysis, or the question is asked on the different strata and the platforms. Fine. So let's begin the session, everyone. Let me read out the question first. I feel this the screen is completely visible to everyone, and you can definitely see the screen. The question is asked on the French Revolution, and the question is asked about the reason of the French Revolution, and we are just discuss about the examination, and we are just going to discuss about the impact of the society, not only the European country, not only the French society, but also we are considering the impact on the world. Definitely we can discuss about the impact on the India as well, the impact on the European countries, the impact on the Britain as well, and what is the reason behind it, the impacts that we are going to discuss in the same session, everyone. Okay, so let's move ahead. Let me explain everyone about the okay. In this section we are just going to discuss about the we are just going to what is let me understand the question, that let me explain the question, that what you are understand with the question. First of all, the understanding of the question, just explaining about the approach of what specifically. Approach is specifically for the French Revolution, that what is understand of the French Revolution, what we will understand with the French Revolution, what is the meaning of the revolution, what is the meaning of the revolution, everyone, right? And how the approach and how the introduction is working there, how the introduction is working there, In this section definitely we are going to choose the appropriate keywords, and in this section definitely we are going to just check the question. Is the question is completely asked on the examination, right? Is the question is asked on the critical analysis, right? Or the question is completely asked on the discussion, right? So what we are just going to understand with the question is asked on the approach that that we are in the introduction. We are just going to discuss about the French Revolution. About the introduction, we are just going to choose the keywords. Later on, we are just check the question, whether the question is asked on the examination or whether the question is asked on the analytical approach, right? So let me frame the question first of all. The question is asked on the French Revolution, right? We are just going to divide the question in 3 segments. First of all, the question is basically asked on the examination. So in this point, we are just going to check that what is the cause and factors behind the French Revolution. In the examination, we are just going to check that what is the cause and what is the factor. What is the cause and what is the factors, and we can say reasons as well, right? And we can say the reasons as well. Reasons behind the French Revolution. Later on, we are going to discuss about the impact, right? We are just going to discuss about the impact, right? The impact on whom? The society. Impact. In the question, they are asking about the whole world impact on the world. Impact on the whole world. Fine. And what about the society? Impact on whom? The society, the culture, definitely the religion. And in the religion, we are just going to discuss about the definition of the Catholic Church and the Protestants. In this segment, definitely we are just going, definitely we will discuss about the society, the culture, the religion, the polity, and the administrative. Administrative means the policy making. Administrative means the policy making. Right, so we have different aspects. We are just going to choose the keyword first of all. What is the French Revolution? We are just going to discuss about the, we are just going to examine. Hello, Mr. Ravi, very good morning. We are going to discuss about the examination of the French Revolution. Later on, we will discuss about the cause. We can say the factors as well. We can say the reasons as well. Later on in the mid body, definitely we will discuss about the impact definitely on the dimensions of a different parts. And definitely your question is not going to complete yet, definitely if you are not going to mention about the dimensions of the different aspects, if even on the society, the culture, the religion, the polity, the administrative. And it is a very important to connect the question with the current part as well. That definitely you can give the example of the impact of a World War I, World War II, that how the European countries and the countries like India suppressed by the policy of the British Empire. And definitely we will discuss about the role of the third estate in the French Revolution, that how the third estate completely frustrated with the policy makings of the Britishers and the policy makings of the aristocracy class, that they completely commanded the hold on the designation on the France. Fine. So this is all about the we can say the framework, that it is very important to analysis the approach of the question, that what is the question is exactly asked, and how the question is framing by the candidates while doing the answer writings. And one more important thing, whenever you write about the conclusion in the question, at the last, whenever you write down the conclusion, it is a very important that your conclusion is completely connected with your introductory part, with your mid body, and later on your the whole conclusion, the whole understanding of the question. This is somehow showing the actual understanding of the candidates with the question. Fine. So let's move ahead, everyone. We're just going to start the session of the French Revolution. You can see on the screen. I would just like to show you the picture on the screen. This picture is a very famous portraying picture, specifically in the Paris, and this is somehow 1789's revolution, when the people completely denied and the people are completely frustrated with the aristocracy of the aristocracy class of the France, and they are completely denied or destroying the power of the Louis 13, right? So this is all about a very famous picture of the Paris. That's why in the further maps, you can see the map on the screen, like location of the Bastille and the place of the Concorde. Now, introduction part, what is the French Revolution and what is the background? Background, definitely you can see this is completely related with your introduction. It is completely up to the candidate that how can we choose the keywords in the question. Introduction doesn't mean that you are just going to elaborate about the French Revolution, that what is French Revolution, why it is happened, the cause, the reasons behind it. The examiner just want to check the attitude of the candidate. The candidate have a good idea or not. So the French involvement. So while writing the introduction, it is very important to choose the small sentences basically. And French Revolution in 1789, whenever you discuss about the background, 2 or 3 keywords are very important. Specifically, when if you are not going to discuss about the role of a King Louis 13, the empty royal coffers, the poor, the harvesters, the rise in the food prices, it is somehow showing the situation of the third estate class. And towards the 1786, a universal land taxation, and the when you are going to discuss about the just going to represent the small glimpse of the situation of the people who are completely immersed themselves in the agriculture sector, specifically in 1789 in France. So you can say definitely the French involvement in the American Revolution of 1776 was costly, affair that left the country in a state of near bankruptcy, and King Louis' extravagant spending also did not help the matters. That earlier I told you that any of the incidents or any of the events that exactly happened in the in any of the country, even the European countries, even the Indian countries, nothing is going to be happened in a very sudden basis, right? And why I'm saying that, because already I'm already explaining the French Revolution, the reason behind of the American Revolution, and how the American Revolution completely creating the background, or we can say the platform for the French Revolution. American Revolution, I can say definitely that in the world history, American Revolution somehow playing a very vital role. In American Revolution, this was the first time when the women, when the people who completely belonging from the third estate class, just asking for their own rights. And French Revolution, American Revolution is somehow playing a very important role for the people who are just looking for their own rights, and just creating the background and just giving the platform for the people who are living in the France. So 1776, if I'm looking the French Revolution, it is happened in 1789. So I don't think so there is a huge differentiation between 1786 or 1789, but definitely I can say it will take more over 25 or 26 years old to creating a very good background or very good platform for the people who are belonging from the France. And in why when we're discussing about the bankruptcy of the King Louis, because King Louis is not completely helping the people somewhere, and the aristocracy class is just looking for their own sake of the profits. And the third state, the empty royal coffers, poor harvester, when people are just looking for the agriculture but they don't have any irrigation facilities. Rise in the food prices, when we are earlier when we were discussing about the depression period, when the inflation rate of the seeds, the basic needs of the people completely rising day to day life, and created the feeling of unrest among the poor rural and the urban populations. And the matter was further worsened by the imposition of the taxation, when the taxation is completely bounded only till the third state class, and the first state and the second state class is not completely involving, and not they are not liable to pay the taxation to the people, and somehow they provided not relief. As a result, rioting, the looting and the general strikes became the norm. It will become the common strata in the French Revolution, राइट क्योंकि बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि आप लोगों को ये बता सकते हैं कि भाई आपको टैक्सेशन देना है, बट वेन एवर यू बाउंड द पीपल टू पे द टैक्सेशन, and it is somehow a very important question for the people who completely belong from the France. They are just asking the question to Louis XIII that why they are the only class to bound to pay the taxation to the higher classes, why not the other classes, what about the rest of the classes, the first estate and the second estate. Towards 1786, a universal land tax was proposed by the controlled journal. Universal land tax means when you are you have to be pay more than half of the taxation. For example, if you are getting more over the profit of 50% on your land, so you are liable to pay more over 25% of the taxation and the benefits to their own emperor, we can say the Louis XIII, and the ruling class in the French Revolution. We are using the word czar. It's a TZAR, the czar's class, proposed by the Control Journal and Charles Alexander de Calonne. The tax reform would no longer exempt the privileged classes like the clergy and the nobility, as had been the case of centuries. Moreover, we are just spending moreover 100 years that we are spending the suppression of the noble class, the suppression of the clergy class, or the suppression of the aristocracy class. But somehow, whenever we discuss about the beginning of the revolution of the American Revolution, somehow definitely aware the people of the France, because the problems that we are facing in the in France, specifically in the French Revolution, the same problems they were facing in the American Revolution. And on that time, people are still asking for their low taxation, the low inflation rate. They are looking for their own rights, the less hours of the in the factories, the working hours, the full salaries of the people, right? So we have a numbers of the problems that we are facing in the American Revolution, that we are facing same in the French Revolution in 1789. This is the whole strata. You can definitely see on the screen, everyone, that whenever we discuss about the social aspects of the French Revolution, because whenever you discuss about the question, earlier we saw the question they are asking about the impact and the social impact specifically. So society is completely bifurcated in three of the section. We can say the first state, it's a Roman Catholic clergy. Catholic clergy, we can say the Pope class, they are still prevalent in the European countries and the France as well. When they are asking for the taxation, when they are asking for the we can say the suppress the people, that the people are bound to respect the clergy classes, the Catholic class, and they are, if they are not somehow interested to paying the taxation, or if they are somehow not interested to pay the respect to the clergy class, they are somehow suppressed by the Roman Catholic clergy classes. And whenever we discuss about the religious reformation, that we cannot forget the name of Martin Luther, that Martin Luther somehow definitely presenting the definition of Protestants and the Catholics. But after the death of Martin Luther, we can say the corruption in the religious perspectives is completely enhanced day by day, and the Roman Catholic Church definitely, they are just imposing and they are just showing the inequality between the people, specifically in the third estate class. And the third estate class are not going to enter in the churches without the permission of the Catholic higher clergy classes. Fine. And what about the second estate, everyone? The second class in the France specifically, it consisted of the nobles, about 2% of the population, and on 20% of the rest of the land taxation. Means the noble class is only liable to pay 2% of the taxation, right? The Roman Catholic Church, they are not paying any taxation, taxation and any taxation amount to the clergy classes. Right, second state class, they are just paying 2% out of the 20 total 20% of the taxation, and the whole burden of the taxation completely shifted on the third state class, and they included the bourgeoisie class, the wealthy merchants. They are just looking for the commercialization and the trades in the European countries. The city workers, the poor labored class, we can say the paid servants like cooks and the attendants, etc. And the moreover, when we discuss about the peasantry class, the huge and the impacted and the suppressed class, we can count definitely the peasantry class who suffered with the huge taxation, the suppression of the clergy class, the suppression of the bourgeoisie class is completely just going to be suppressed by the higher classes to the peasantry class, and they are bound to work on the lands. They cannot left their work with their own desire. They cannot left the cities with their own desires. They are completely bound to do the labor. They are completely bound to do the labor, and they moreover, and after the moreover, they are completely paying moreover the 80% of the taxation to the clergy class. And that's why somehow whenever we looking the social strata of the France, and whenever we discuss about the reasons behind it, somehow we can completely counter the reasons like taxation, the reasons like inflation, the reasons like the religious inequalities, and the reasons like the suppression by the noble class and the suppression by the first state class is somehow definitely creating the reasons, creating the factors behind it. And the peasantry class and the sitting working class and the bourgeoisie class, when they completely merged with each other, they are just looking for their own rights, right? One question sometimes arising in the students, that why the bourgeoisie class are suffered actually. See, bourgeoisie class are not suffered actually. They are not suffered as the peasantry class suffered in the French Revolution. The bourgeoisie class is a wealthy merchant class. Definitely we can say the trade is somehow playing a very crucial and very important role in the France, right? We cannot ignore the points, and we cannot ignore the counterparts of the trading class and the commercialization class of the bourgeoisie class. That's why the first state class and the second state class is not try to be suppress the bourgeoisie class. And why they are doing this? They are just doing this so the taxation is just a must time to time, and the bourgeoisie class just looking for their own benefits. So what about the rest of the classes? We have only two rest of the classes in the society. We can say the city workers and we can say the peasantry class. The rest of the two parts of the society, we can say the third state, specifically for the city workers and the peasantry class, right? And later on the city workers, when the scale of the salaries completely become lowest, when they are not completely faced the inflation rates, so slowly they are completely merged in the third class of the peasantry class, that we are considered the peasantry class. And the city workers and the peasantry class, they are just paying somehow more over the taxation. City workers, when they are paying more over the 20% of the taxation, and the peasantry class somehow they are paying the 80% of the taxation. So the whole of the 100% of the taxation is just paying by the third state in the society, by the city workers and by the peasantry class, right? So the scenario of the taxation and the foundation to pay the taxation is somehow definitely showing us the dissatisfaction in the people, and the aristocracy, the Louis XIII is somehow is not the first choice of the people later on. Fine. Whenever we discuss about the cause, definitely you can make the heading on the cause. Definitely you can make the cause on the reasons as well. You can write down as a reasons, you can write down as a cause, and you can write down as a factors, right? Reasons, factors behind it. Cause of the French Revolution, we can definitely divide the causes of the French Revolution different parts. Whenever you discuss about the causes of the French Revolution, the economic causes, definitely this cause is completely based on the high taxation. Social taxation, social reasons, definitely when we can say the enlightenment of the philosophers question the divine rights of the monarchs, and the political reasons, influence of the American Revolution. So we have a different we can say challenges as well. See, economic reasons, definitely we can say the France economy was declined due to, we have a numbers of the factors, we have a numbers of the reason behind it. Economic reasons, definitely we can say the high taxation first of all. The high taxation first of all. France economy, the economy which is completely controlled by the first state and the second state, and was declined due to, we have a numerous of the reason behind it. The first reason we can say definitely about the price of the bread was skyrocketing. We can say कि ऐसा होता था कि भाई अगर आप लाइन में भी खड़े हैं तो ये नहीं पता है कि जो ब्रेड आपने पहली दफे 100 में खरीदा है वो आखिरी आदमी उसको 1000 में खरीदेगा. So you can see the height of the inflation, right? The bread was skyrocketing. And why we are considering as a bread? Because bread is somehow a basic need of the people. The bread, definitely the using by the first state, the second state, but definitely the bread is using by the bourgeoisie class, the city workers and the peasantry class as well, right? So what about the definitely the people are suffering with a high inflation rate. The monarchy spend too much money on the luxuries, right? That the people don't have any people just suffering with the inflation rate. People are not able to fulfill their own basic rights. So whenever we discuss about the role of the monarchy class, the noble class, specifically the Catholic class of the church, the first state, the second state and the bourgeoisie class, those were considered as a wealthy merchant in France on that time. They are spent too much money on the luxuries, right? So what about the poor class and what about the lower class? Because rest of the poor classes and the merchant classes somehow paying more over the 100% of the taxation to the monarchy class. So that's why they are enjoying somewhere their luxuries in the same pace. After losing to the British in the 7 Years' War, right, France aided the American Revolution financially against the British. I already explained about the reasons of the American revolutions, that how the American Revolution completely impacted, and somehow American Revolution is going to become a great reason behind the French Revolution. So after losing to the British in 7 years of war, because when the British empire, when they merged themselves in the 7 years war, whenever the wars happened in our society, or we can say in the country, definitely war is somehow not losing the public property, but somehow the war completely impacted the common classes, right? So in the 1789 or before the 1789 and after 1776, people are already suffered with the high inflation rate. People already suffered with the the rising prices in the bread. But definitely what is happening, that after losing to British in 7 years war, the whole economy, we can say the whole structure of the economy is going to be lost later on. And France aided the American Revolution financially against the British, and France somehow helping the Americans countries for uplifting them, to providing the financial help specifically for the British Empire. And the third, we can say the economic reason that I already explained you, the third state. And who are the third state actually? We can see the working class. We can see the working class as well as the peasantry class. The working class and the peasantry class, they are considered as the third state class, and they are highly, we can say, the paid taxation, just paying the high taxation to the society. And what about the social reasons behind it? Whenever you discuss about the society, that Enlightenment philosophies questioned the divine right to of the monarchs. Society is definitely dependent on the each other. If the people don't have any right, to ask the question to the monarch class, the Louis XIII, we can say, and when the people are suffered with the high price of a bread in the economic perspective, and only the third state class is just paying the whole concern of the taxation to the monarch class. So how can they fulfill their basic needs? The social equality. Definitely the third state class, when they suppressed by the nobility class, they are not liable to fulfill the whole taxation, right? So that's why they suffered with the social status inequalities problems. Enlightenment philosophers means what? When sometimes the philosophers try to be awake the people, that you have to be need rights, you have to be asked the question to the monarch class. But what is happened, and at the end, whenever the third state class, when sometimes when they denied that they were not able to pay the taxation to the monarch class, They are just completely suppressed, they are completely exploited by the first and the second class, and they are just bound to work on the lands of the monarch classes, right, or the second classes or the nobility classes. What about the political reasons? Political reasons are basically influence, first of all, the American Revolution. And why the American Revolution? Because after the American Revolution, America got a constitution, and somehow the French Revolution, the French people, they were asking for their own constitution, for their own duties, for on their rights. So that for they are just looking for the law, they are just looking for the acts, and they're just looking for the proper structure and formats in the society, so that people will discuss their reasons, their problems with the king. They can directly put it their question in front of the classes as well. So influence of the American Revolution, when the French people, the women specifically, when they are completely asking about their own rights, and the education rights, we can say, the low inflation rights. So political reasons specifically for the American Revolution completely impacted the French Revolution. Now, what about the more problems with the taxation? Taxation, which is completely paid by the third estate class. The French were subjected to be range of a direct taxation, which is payable to the royal government, and indirect taxation payable to item like a salt, we can say, wine, and the tobaccos. Right, salt, definitely we can say the basic needs. Bread, we can say the completely a basic need. So what about the all these things? Whenever you discuss about all the basic needs, and when the hike of the prices completely increase day to day. So what about the people who are belonging from the third estate class, and what about their own life? Fine. So tax liabilities varied widely across France and gabbled. Salt taxation was levied at much higher amounts in and near Paris than in the southern France. Nobility, the people specifically belong from the second estate class, and clergy who are belong from the first class were also exempt from some direct taxation. So you can see the discrimination in the paragraph as well, everyone. The discrimination is not completely happened because that you are belong from a first estate, second estate, or third estate. Whenever you discuss about the common needs, the taxation is directly divided in two segments: the indirect tax or the direct tax. Direct tax, it means it is definitely or compulsory paid to the directly paid to the royal government. But whenever you discuss about the indirect tax on the salt, the tobacco, and the we can say wine as well, this is also completely bounded by to the third estate class, that they have to pay the taxation to the clergy class, to the noble class. And the noble class and the clergy class, they are completely exempted from to liable to paying the taxation. They are completely exempted from for paying the taxation. French economy in trouble. Economy by 1789, France was completely bankrupted. By 1789, everyone, we can say was bankrupted. France had borrowed money but 1789, the interest of the debt exceeded in GNP, right? And the tax system needed to be changed, but the church and the nobles restricted somewhere. And why they are not somewhere is interested to paying the taxation, because the noble class and the clergy class, they were very much get aware, if they are start to paying the taxation, the burden of the taxation increasing day to day. So it's good to be shift the burden to the peasantry class and to the city class, that they were the only class who have to pay the taxation to the royal classes. The direct taxation or the indirect taxation. Direct taxation, sometimes the taxation when they put it on the land, and sometimes the indirect taxation when we sometimes discuss about the basic needs of the people, even the basic needs of the salt, the bread, the tobacco, and the wine as well. Fine. So you can see the economy in trouble. And why the economy in trouble, why the economy is suppressed, why the economy is not uplifted in 1789. We have a different reasons, we can say. Debt, we can say. The wars, we can say. We have a 7 years British war. We have a 7-year British war, and debt that they are taking from the British Empire for improving their own society. They're taking their debt, they are taking. And why the debt is, why they are just pursuing the debt from the other states? Because they somehow just fulfilling their own desires or luxuries. Fine. And what about the taxation? Taxation, whenever we discuss about the high taxation, and this taxation definitely we can say divide into the two segments, the direct tax and the indirect tax. And the taxation which is completely paid by whom? The taxation is completely paid by the third state. The third is, it's not state, it's state, everyone, right? By the third state. And who are the third state actually? The working class, we can say. The working class, we can say, definitely. And the rest of the classes is about our your city workers and your peasant class. So your working class were bound to pay moreover the 20% of the taxation, but your peasantry class were bound to pay moreover the 80% of the taxation. And who were exempted from the taxation? The high class, we can say, exempted from the taxation. Exempted from the taxation, the rest of the two classes. The first state, we can say, surely, right, the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, and the rest of the second class, surely we can say the second class, the second state, the noble class. The second state, the noble class. The noble class. Right. So these are the problems in the 1789 French Revolution, and people were really not accepted the suppression of the noble class and the clergy class, and that's why the economy, and why the economy is gonna be in trouble slowly, because the high taxation of the 80%, moreover the 20% by the working class and the peasantry class, were not possible to pay the royal class. Why it is not possible to pay the royal class? Because the high inflation, the irrigation facilities, the agriculture, the lands were not properly provided by the clergy class and the royal class. They are somehow just suppressing the people, and they are just somehow bounded the people that they have to be pay the taxation to the royal class. Otherwise, they are just suffered the numbers of the problems in the society, maybe the social equality, and they are not getting work for 3 or 4 months later on. What was the impact of the French Revolution of the whole world? This is the tagline of the question that we discussed earlier, that the impact is very important, that how the impact of the whole world of the revolution is completely happened. World is basically in 1789. If I am discuss here, I cannot forget about the, definitely we cannot forget about the name of the India as well. Right. And what was the impact? Whenever we discuss about the impact never ever just occurred on one aspect. Whenever we discuss about the impact, definitely the impact is happened on different segments and factors. So what we cannot forget about, definitely it is very important to discuss about the interdisciplinary impacts. And what are interdisciplinary impacts in the society? When you discuss about your social impact, like society, we have a economy, we have a polity, means it's a political impact. Just a minute. It's a social impact. Fine. It's a economic impact. It's a cultural impact. It's a religious impact. Last but not the least, definitely we can say the political impact. The political impact. And how the impact is just also impacted the whole world. When we giving the definition of the taxation, if I'm discuss about the Maratha specifically, we cannot forget the name of a Tipu Sultan, the Hyder Ali as well. When they are looking for the armies like the countries like France, and somehow when they started to preparing the army, just they're installing their army well equipped like the France. We cannot forget the name of the Napoleon as well. So how the social impact is happened when the people are suffered? Who's the people who are suffered? The third estate, not the noble, not the clergy. Fine. So what about the society when we completely suffered with the social equality, the social status equality? And what about the economy when we suffered high taxation? When we suffered with the high taxation, the equality. And what about the culture when we are not completely liable to celebrate your culture, and when you completely discriminated by the Catholic Church? And in the religion, we cannot forget the name of the Catholic Church when they started to bound the people to accept their norms, condition, their terms, because they every month the peasantry class and the working city workers, they are not completely liable to paying the taxation to the royal class, the direct or the indirect class, but they also suppressed by the Catholic Church or the religious classes, the higher religious classes, to the peasantry class or the noble class, that it is a must to pay the taxation. And what about the political end? What about the administrative classes when the people are suffered with their own equal rights? When the people were not agreed or they are not completely accepted the suppression of the Louis XIII, when the people looking for the platform from where they can at least represent their own rights, their own fundamental duties. They are looking for the constitution. Women looking for their own rights. They're working, the working class, they are looking for the less inflation rates. They are looking for their educational rights, their philosophical rights as well, so that they can put it their problems in front of the clergy class and the noble class. And in the economic, we can say definitely they are not completely liable, or they're not completely accepted. The third estate only is responsible to paying the whole taxation. And what about the rest classes, the noble and the clergy? They are not liable to fulfill, and they are not liable to take the responsibility to fulfill the taxation or to pay the taxation. So what about the impact of the revolution, everyone? Impact, monarchy is gone basically. Impact is what? That I'm already count down here: the social impact, the economic impact, the cultural impact as well. So what is happening with the revolution? See, whenever we bifurcate the word revolution, it's definitely we can write down its evaluation. Is it it's the okay, it's the evaluation. Fine. It means the system that is existing in the French society, in the French Revolution. People were not completely satisfied with the existing society. So that's why people are looking for their social evaluation, their economic evaluation, their political, their administrative, their cultural evaluation. Fine. Exactly, Mr. Yogi. India borrow concept of liberty, definitely. That's why the existing society, when they're completely not comfortable that the way they are pursuing the things, they are not completely satisfied with the monarch class. So that's why they just want to reform something. They just want to regain something. What they want to reform? They just want to reform that the noble class and the clergy class, they are also the part of the society. Then it is important to must pay to the taxation to the royal class. And what about the Reformation when they're looking for the social equality? What about the revivalism? The existing society they just want to improve the existing society. And from where they want to get the evaluation when they're just looking for the revolution. And revolution always happened not only with the one specific leader. And definitely when the people just come in the same strata, come on the mainstream, and the whole people, the peasantry class and the working city class, when they just looking for their own rights and for their own duties and their own benefits. Fine. So what is happening at the last, when the whole half of the country, because the noble class, the clergy class, and their peasantry class and the working class, more of the population is existing there, that moreover the population is just immerse themselves in the peasantry class, or they moreover the 80% of the population immerse themselves in the city working class. Fine. So what is happening at the last, everyone? The noble class and the clergy class, that they have a population of only 20%, So what is happening when the labor class and the working city class, when they completely left the machineries, they completely left the industries, they completely left the factories. So what is happening in the last, the companies and the factories is going to be shut down finally. The inflation rate is high finally, and the peasantry class, when they completely deny to pay off the taxation, so what is the impact is completely come out, we can say. The monarchy is gone, the power of a Louis 13 is completely vanished. The old feudal custom are gone. Feudal system definitely impacted a lot when the feudal class somehow bounding the peasantry class to pay the taxation, and it is a somehow the exploitation, and they cannot do anything with their own desire. When the peasantry class suffered with the irrigation facilities, they don't have any so much production. If the peasantry class don't have so much production, so how is it possible to pay the taxation to the feudal class, and the feudal class pay the taxation to the royal class, right, the clergy class and the nobility. Slavery in the French colonies abolished finally. It is completely abolished, right? And French become democratic country. The directory, we can say, two houses legislation. The democratic country, we can say, definitely when they are getting their political rights. When the democracy is just saying that two houses legislature and the committee of 5 directors in inefficient qualsum, and two houses legislature means and 5 directors, they are belong from a different classes, the noble class, the clergy class, and the working and the peasantry class, right? Inefficient qualsum. France have a large experienced army. Rising young star in the army, Napoleon Bonaparte, and we cannot forget the name of Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon Bonaparte definitely giving a drastic change in the world society, and still we are just looking for a, and later on in the next slides we are just going to discuss about the achievements of the Napoleon, the achievements of the Napoleon Bonaparte, and why Napoleon Bonaparte definitely is a very succeeded a soldier as well, the general as well. But what is happening at the last, that Napoleon Bonaparte killed in the battle, and the history of the Napoleon Bonaparte is completely vanished later on. Fine. Hmm. System in the French, Mr. Yogi, is known as the state, the Tsar system, TZAR. The first state, the second state, the third state. Right? I think you late in the class. I already explained all the sections. I hope the screen is completely clear and you can just getting everything. The state, the designation of the Louis, we can called Louis, or the designation or aristocracy we considered as a Tsar. T is a silent word, TZAR. And the society is bifurcated. The society was bifurcated in 3 segments. The first is state, second state, and the third state. And in the third state, the bourgeoisie class, the working class, and the peasantry class, they suffered for the high taxation. Right, Mr. Yogi? I hope Napoleon Bonaparte is arriving in France after the French Revolution 1789, and the Jacobean clubs is definitely the invention, we can say, of the Napoleon as well, where Napoleon is not only guiding the people from the beginning of the time, but later on the ideology of the Napoleon is also not accepted by the France. Right. So what is happening at the last, I just would like to represent on the different slides. On the next slides, you can see on the screen. Napoleon Bonaparte was an officer when the French Revolution began. Right? फ्रांस का रेवोल्यूशन शुरू होने से पहले he was just considered as a general, or we can say he just considered as a good officer. No doubt that Napoleon Bonaparte have a good command on the strategies to command the whole soldiers, right? So that's why somehow he considered as a high society officer. And whenever we talk about the officer, we cannot forget the class of a second Nobel class. And definitely we will consider the mentality of the Napoleon also somehow impacted with the second Nobel class. Now in 1799 he stacked the we can say the COP, and declared himself the first consul of the France. When we got the democratic rights, when we got the legislation, and when we got the 5 rest of the members of the different class, and the participation of the people, just we are when we were enjoying the participation of the people on the equal rights, right, on the equal platforms. It is very important because he ended the chaos of the French Revolution, and also because he spread the ideals of the revolution all over the Europe, right. So the trend of the revolution, had been started. How had been started? See, we cannot say directly that 1789 the French Revolution is somehow awareing the people about the revolution, because the work of the revolution and the American Revolution is already created the platform, created the background for the French Revolution as well. So we cannot directly say that, but French Revolution definitely we can say, if the third state and the suppression of the third state, it's not an easy task. If you really want to get out of the rigid class, if you really want to get out of the feudal class, so surely we can say that it is up to us that how we will behave in front of the aristocracy class. And as per the opinion of the Napoleon Bonaparte, as per the opinion of Napoleon Bonaparte, he directly just aware the people, just saying that suppression is always happened when we really want to suppress ourselves, right, कि अगर आप नहीं चाहते हैं कि आपको कोई suppress करे तो आप नहीं हो सकते हैं, as per the opinion of the Napoleon Bonaparte. Fine. So what is happening at the last, everyone, that the awareness of the Napoleon Bonaparte, the awareness of the we can say the enlightenment of the Napoleon Bonaparte is just work in the French Revolution drastically. And later on the strata of a democracy, the strata of the equality on the every level, the equality on the economic level, cultural level, social level, and the rising of the philosophers started in the European countries. Fine. So later on we just saw the ideas of the 1917, which is completely related with the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution. It is somehow impacted of 1789, the French Revolution, and the same structure that we saw earlier in the France, it is somehow impacted this 1917 Russian Revolution. Right. And what about the positive effect of French Revolution? Earlier I am discussed about the impacts of the French Revolution. Okay. Yes, Mr. Yogi. The changes after French Revolution also went away after coming of Napoleon. Okay. We can say that, Yogi, there is no doubt. And czars in the feudal system, they have a different designation. Right? Czars were the people who completely enjoying the power of the designation. कि जो हमने कह दिया, it is important to accept it. Fine. And what about the feudal lords? See, czar then feudal lords. And we have a different categories in the feudal lords. We have a knights, we can see the feudal lords as well, we have a peasantry class. So feudal lords somehow helping the czarist class, and the czarist class completely known as the royal class, right? The czarist class known as the royal class, and the royal class enjoying the power of exemption of the taxation. And the what is the work of the feudal class who belong from the nobles, that they are getting the taxation from the peasantry class, right? It is their own work. It is the responsibility of the feudal lords that how they suppress the peasantry class, and how they just getting the taxation from the suppressed of the peasantry class. Okay. Now, positive effect of French Revolution. Definitely, see what whenever we see any of the events in the history, that every event we have a positive aspects and we have a negative aspects as well. So whenever we discuss about the impacts, we have a social, we have a economic, we have a cultural, we have a political, we have a administrative, we have a different impacts in the French Revolution. And earlier we saw the rising of the Napoleon Bonaparte, and how Napoleon Bonaparte is somehow creating the platform and started the trend of the revolution in the whole Europe as well, when he started to enlighten the people for their own rights. right? So what about the positive impacts? Definitely the revolution is happened after 25 or 26 years later on. How that the revolution of the people, that revolution is completely happened when the people are looking for their own rights, and thus definitely the whole the whole sum of the time, or over 25 or 20 30 years of the revolution, people completely feel the positive impact, right? So how they feel the positive impact? When the declaration of the rights of men and citizens, when they have a right to vote, that they have a right to take the action, they have a right to ask the question, right? Now fine, and what about the French adopts its first written constitution? France is the first country who completely adopted the written constitution, and monarch abolished, the feudalism is abolished, and this is somehow a very important terminology, we can say, when the monarchy abolished, right? When the power which was completely consolidated till one person, it is completely abolished. And what about the feudal is abolished? Feudalism, when they started to suppress the peasantry class, whenever they started to separate the peasantry class, and the higher taxation was imposed by the feudal class on the peasantry class, they were completely abolished. This is the, we can say, the very vital or very important role played by the feudal lords earlier in the czarist section, or in the, we can say, in the noble class, or by the we can say the clergy class as well. And what about the estates are abolished, and estates are also abolished. So what is the positive impacts of the estates when they are abolished completely? The estates, when they're completely bifurcated in three sections, the clergy class, and then later on the royal class, the clergy class, then the peasantry, then working, then the bourgeoisie class. They are completely they are completely abolished the estates, and when they got the right for the men and the citizens, and when they got the written constitution, the discrimination with the people, and the when the people and the earlier when people were suffered with the equal rights, finally they are come on the same level when they started to enjoying the equal rights as well. And what about the national public schools are set up? That earlier we discussed about the educational rights. When we don't have any educational rights, it's very difficult to aware the people, and somehow it is become a very biggest task to the people, that how we can aware the people. So somehow definitely we can appreciate the reformations like Protestants, when they started to aware the people. And definitely we cannot forget the name of Napoleon Bonaparte, when he established or aware the people specifically for the school educations. And the school education is completely enlightening the French society, not only the equal status, not only the place of equal status, but definitely they are ensuring the people that education is the, we can say, the weapon that somehow is not only enlightening the society, but they somehow awareing the people that how they can use their own rights, right? Fine. And we can say about the French Protestants. This is some. This is French Protestants, we can say, are the granted the equal rights. Earlier we saw the name of the Catholic Church. Catholic Church, they are the, completely restricted by the restricted to the people, the to paying the taxation to the churches, to paying the taxation to the Pope is a very mandatory. But after introducing the French Protestants, everyone, French Protestant is somehow discussing about the equal rights of the people, the equal religious status to the people. Jews are granted the equal rights, definitely. When the states are abolished, definitely the possibilities of the equality is enhanced day-to-day life. When the Jews are granted the equal rights, when the people, the common people, the educational rights, the women are getting the equal rights on the same platform without any discrimination. And what about the negative impact of the French Revolution? It is a very important to discuss as well, that we have also a negative impacts, that women gain at first but then lose rights under the Robespierre and Napoleon. The Mr. Yogi is also asking the question about the asking about the we can say the Jacobean clubs. Slavery in the colonies is abolished under the Robespierre, but the allowed again under Napoleon. Because what I told you earlier, that Napoleon is also was also officer, and he belonged from the third state of the second state of the noble and the society. So mentality of the Napoleon is still stagnant on the same level, that he is still looking everyone that the people are respecting, just provide the respecting to him. And Napoleon uses a secret police force to track down his enemies, and Napoleon censors the press as well. And why he censored the press as well? Censors of the press, it means when the press was completely propagated, we can say, or were not allowed to print anything against of it. Fine. So this is somehow press when it happened actually. So people were not about to aware about the Napoleon's ideologies, and Napoleon allows police to use torture of extract confessions. People who are enemies of Napoleon are imprisoned without trial. So we can say again, the whole scenario has been changed earlier, that we're looking for the rights, then we got the rights, again we suppressed by the Napoleon Bonaparte's, the policies and the ideologies of the Napoleon Bonaparte's. Okay, now let's move ahead everyone. Causes and the effect of the French Revolution. The long term causes, we can say, when we discuss about more over the centuries, that I'm already compare the 1776, we can say the American Revolution, 1789 we have a French Revolution, and 1719 when we have already a, we can say, the Russian Revolution. So what about the long term causes? So 1789 or 1917 we have a, we can say, we have a more over 250 years. 250 years, and after 250 years the long term causes, corrupt, inconsistent and insensitive leadership is going to be end. Prosperous members of the third estate, when the third estate of the French society, they are just when they started to participate in the parliamentary house. And separate enlightenment, the ideas when the educational rights, completely education uplifted the social class or the people who belong from different classes, when they discuss for their own rights as well. And what about the immediate if cause? Huge government debt, right? Poor harvest and rising prices bread, when we already discussed about the inflation rates. And failure of Louis, we can say, 16 to accept the financial reforms, formation of National Assembly and storming the Bastille, that the image I already showing you earlier. And what about the immediate effect? What is the immediate effect? Cause we saw, and what is immediate effect? Declaration of the rights of men, the citizens adopted, that the citizens, the men and the women, completely getting the equal rights. Now France adopts its first written constitution. Fine. And revolution of the France fights coalition of the European powers. Right. And what about the long term effects? When Napoleon gains the powers, code the established French public school setups, conquest separate nationalism, right? When you are completely not showing the feeling of patriotism, and when you are not completely showing, free to showing the emotions specifically for the countries. And revolution occurs in the Europeans and the Latin. Definitely it is completely somehow impacted not only the whole society, but somehow the result is came out in the we can say the as the revolution in the Russia, where people are still people were already suffering with lots of the problems and the lots of the we can say the factors that people were not liable to using their rights as well. So this is somehow we can say the long term cause and impact which is showing on the not only the Russian Revolution, but we cannot forget the are prominent two world wars, the first 1914 and later on the 1945. This is the somehow the cause, the impacts, the power, the democracy, the constitution. And somehow when we got everything, that the power is completely stagnant just because of happened, because now we don't have anything for the we don't have any winning challenges. So we have already a war like 1945 where we lost numbers of the things. So what about the approach everyone? Whenever we discuss about the approach, briefly state that what the revolution was with the dates in the introduction, highlights the main causes of it, that what are the causes of it. And it is a very important to list out the impacts of the France, pros and here we are just discussing about the positive and the negative impacts. List out the impact of the world, that how the society, how the economy, and how the written constitution that the France adopted in the French Revolution is just completely impacted the other countries, right? And also highlight some indirect impacts in the conclusion. Indirect impact means when we looking the women's are completely come out from their own homes, they are participated in the movements, and somehow this impact definitely we can say in the 1942 Quit India movement, when the women were looking for their own sake of rights, when they started to looking for the education, when the women and the children are looking for the education as well. So this is somehow a indirect, we can say, the impact on the women as well, right? Nahi, Mr. Yogi, bourgeoisie means the people who completely immerse themselves in the merchant class or in the trading, when they're looking the benefits in the commercialization. Fine, Mr. Yogi. I hope this is clear to you. Hmm. Okay. So what about the introduction, everyone? French Revolution, somehow 1789 was a period of a social and political upheaval. Social means when we looking for their own social rights. Political, that I already giving the example that after 1789 France got the, France got the position of, getting the written constitution, resulting in the overthrow of the monarchy, Louis XVI, and establishing the republic, when we got the right of a democracy, when we got the right of the equal representation at the equal platform. So this you can see the map, the versatile that we have discussed earlier, Versailles. Now the main body its causes were multidimensional. So what we are going to discuss in the multidimensional causes, everyone? What we are going to discuss the multidimensional causes? Definitely we can discuss about the social, right? The economic, the cultural, right? The political, their administrative. And one prominent point that it is very important to discuss in the lecture, which is very important, we can say definitely the taxation. The taxation. Taxation is what? The direct taxation and the indirect taxation. And one more thing, which is not forgettable, we can say, when we discuss about the role of a Napoleon. Napoleon. Fine. So these are somehow a very important main causes body, which is important to discuss in the class. Now, multidimensional, we said the historical cannot limit the scope of a history. So whenever we discuss about the revolution, when earlier I started to bifurcate the word, the re and the evaluation, it means we are not completely satisfied with the existing society. Fine. And why we are not satisfied with existing society? Because we are looking for the change. And how the changes happened actually? Whenever we are looking for the change, change is never ever occurred in a one dimension, not only particularly society, but somehow these dimensions are completely dependent on the each other. And how it is completely dependent on the each other? When the society is completely dependent on the economic changes, when the economy is completely based on the political changes, right? For example, if I'm giving the example of economic changes, we are looking for the exemption of the taxation. The clergy class, the noble class, and the royal class, these classes are completely exempt from the taxation, right? So how these exemption completely impacted the social aspects? These exemptions completely impacted the social aspects. The burden of the taxation enhanced or increased on the peasantry class, on the working class, everyone. कौन बोल रहा Right, it is a very important to discuss about the different aspects, that how the economy, how the polity, and how the administrative is completely impacted and completely related with the interdisciplinary approach. Fine. Now, this is interdisciplinary approach, we can say. Let me discuss about the social. When the specifically society, the involvement of the women, when the women looking for their equal rights and the equal status. Economic history, when we looking for the less taxation. Religious history, when we looking for the equal religious status, that we have a very good example of a Protestants, we have a very good example of the Catholics as well. What about the cultural history, everyone? When we're looking for their own involvement in the culture, but we're not getting the equal right to, celebrate our culture. Administrative and polity, when we're looking the role of a Louis XVI, and Louis XVI is somehow not going to provide the right to the peasantry class or to the lower class to enjoying their own rights, and the less burden and the less taxation on the, we can say, the peasantry class or the your city working classes. Fine. Culture, we can say, enlightenment to think rationally and critically. Rationally, when we looking everyone with the equal eye. And what about the critical, we can say the critically led to the lowering the status of the church and the monarch, while promotion of the secular, scientific and humanistic values, right? And what about the society, everyone? When aspiration of the bourgeoisie class, the class who immerse themselves in the trading or in the commercialization, right? And why the bourgeoisie class exempted from the taxation? Because bourgeoisie class somehow providing the equal benefit to the king, to be politically equal to the clergy and the aristocratic classes. Financially, we can say France involved in the American Revolution, leading in the increasing, because moreover 7 years of the war somehow we definitely impacted the France society and their political aspects. And provincial courts opposition to the reduction in their privileges. Why they are just saying? Because they are not going to provide the equal opportunity to just put it their question in front of the classes for their own sake of the rights for getting the equality. What about the economic deregulation of grain prices, leading the high inflation of the bread and the bad harvesting, leading to food storage, provoking the masses to revolt, right? The high taxation, we can say, the less benefits on the production, the suppression by the feudal class, the high taxation on the feudal classes. This is somehow we can say different aspects of the economy, the political, the financial, the social and the cultural are somehow important. And definitely the liberty, equality, fraternity, these are somehow equal, we can say the common terminology in for the people who are living in the France. They are looking for their own liberty. French society and revolution 1789 and 19, we can say impact on the French Revolution. So what is the impact on the French Revolution? When the monarch was abolished and republic took its place, political sovereignty introduced at individual and national state level with the centralized government. Fine. Centralized government means when we are looking for our constitution, for our rights. And what about the serfdom? Serfdom, the feudalism, the slavery were abolished, and the influence of the church decreased in the personal lives. And the personal life means when church are the Protestants, the Catholics. Fine, the slavery and the feudalism and the political sovereignty introduced at individuals. Monarchy was abolished, the power of the Louis XVI is completely vanished later on. Now, you can see the next image on the screen, everyone. You can see the image of the idea of separation of a public and private realm emerged, right? Whenever we discuss about what? Whenever we discuss about the ideas of a separation of what? The public and the private realm. Fine. And some shortcomings, limited suffrage, especially women, were excluded in the slavery and reintroduced by the Napoleon later on, when Napoleon completely holded the command of the France society and just introducing the policy, the ideas as per their own convenience or as per their own need. You can see the image on the screen, everyone. This is somehow the image of a Napoleon, and Napoleon somehow the image is somehow expressing the people just looking for their own rights, Okay. Hmm. Now, the people are looking for their own rights, on for their own expansion, and on rights, and just looking for their own benefits. But Napoleon is just imposing his ideas on the people. And impact on the world, Napoleon carried ideas of the revolution to the rest of the Europe. The liberty, the modern laws. Liberty means what? The liberty is only limited till the permission and till the convenience of the Napoleon. Modern laws, when he restricted somehow the women liberty, democratic right, the protection of the private property, and in this term give rise to the modern nationalism, paving way the creation of the swan and the nation state, everyone. So this is somehow we can see the relevant point specifically of the French Revolution. The impact, whenever we discuss about the impact, liberalism as a government form got crystallized in the North and the South America. Tipu Sultan, when he started to just inviting Napoleon for India, and particularly we can say the Indian nationalist freedom struggle incorporated ideals of the liberty, the equality and the fraternity. And independence movements in Spanish and Portuguese we have, right, a Haitian revolution we cannot forget the name of Raja Ram Mohan Roy as well, Tipu Sultan particularly, and Indian nationalist Vidya, they both are somehow influenced a lot due to the French Revolution happened in the European countries. Impact of French Revolution, the Indian freedom struggle was inspired by ideas of a French Revolution. When we discuss about the freedom, when we discuss about the liberty, when we discuss about the equality, which worked as an awakening, enlightening the people, and a movement against British rule, and was later, we can say, the embedded in Indian's constitution. When finally 1942, when we looking the participation of each and every class, when each and every class still looking for the same right, that earlier the France, the American revolutions, on that the American revolutions times or French revolution, people are looking for the same, the fraternity, the liberty and the equality as well. And what about the conclusion, everyone? Whenever we discuss about the words like conclusion, conclusion is basically this importance of the French Revolution laid in the laying the foundation, the modern states based on the liberal democratic ideas, and also indirectly it laid the groundwork for the growth of the socialism when we looking the equality to every person. And later on the communalism, we can say, the providing an intellectual and the social environment in which these ideologies could be flourish, right? So these are somehow we can say that definitely the ideas of the French Revolution which happened in 1789, everyone, where we finally learned a lot of the ideas, the fraternity, the equality, the liberty. And in this present time of the whole world, we can say definitely these are somehow common words, we can say common vocabulary, whenever we're looking for the democracy, the individual rights, the fraternity, the equality and the liberty still existing, still we are looking for the improvement, still we are looking for the their enhancements, and the we can say the transformation of the humanity and the life of the citizens of the whole world, right? So this is all about the session. We will meet at 2:30 in our next session, and the session is based on the biography, we can say the current update of Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. So don't forget to join me after 3 minutes. So we will meet in the same session, everyone, and after 2 minutes. So don't forget to join me. Thank you so much for joining me. We will meet